Well, I guess my rain light's not as useful as I thought it was going to be. I was getting blasted by the light. Blinded by the light. Let's turn this to another color that's more natural. Okay. You know who I am? I'm Suzanne Titkemeyer. I wrote for Pathos for almost 10 years, a column called No Longer Quivering. Hey, Cheryl, where I got to talk about quiverful and evangelical and fundamentalism. But I didn't talk a whole lot about my own personal experiences. I would sometimes do, but I'm starting to put everything together for a book. I'm going back over it, and it is a pretty horrific bunch. Hey, Bossy. Yeah, so it's raining here. I finally stopped throwing up, so I'm able to get up and do a few things and eat some food. I had the stomach flu last night really bad and was up all night, off and on. I've been dragging around like dead this morning. So now I seem to have a second win. Seem to be over it, whatever it was. Cheers. So you got me now. Okay, I want to talk about angel worship. Why? Because we had a ton of people at our old church that really got into that for a while. And it was really a strange experience. It was not at all what I expected. Yeah, I'm feeling human again, Bossy. It took a little while. I don't know why. I know I didn't eat anything. I don't know. Just one of those mysteries of the world. You catch something, you don't know where it's come from. So anyway, that's why my hair is all on my head. I got my granny bun on because when you're tossing your cookies, the last thing you want to do is get vomit in your hair. And so with me, it goes up in my head. So there we go. So I want to talk a little bit about angel worship because we certainly had a lot of people at our old church that were really into the whole idea of angels. And it's interesting. I'm doing okay, Angela. Good to see you. It was really interesting to me that pretty much every religion in the world has some sort of creature that sounds like angels. So I don't think angels are necessarily exclusive to Christianity. Now, I'm writing this book about my time in my old quiverful church. It's really a comedy more than it is anything else. And Carolyn Ironwell really got me going today because she was talking about, who was she talking about? She was talking about this woman, that's all she does is angelology. And she used to be part of the, I guess you call the New Age group. Now she's hardcore Christianity, hardcore Christian, making all kinds of claims about angels, making angel cards up instead of tarot cards, and all kinds of stuff like that. Here's the thing. It's one thing if you hang an angel on your Christmas tree, or you have a little picture of an angel on your wall and it brings you comfort. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you start spending all of your time studying this, trying to see angels, it starts to get a little weird. You got to think about it too. Satan was once an angel. He was the head of the angels. So the thing that I've always noticed with these people that go off the deep end into angelology, like this woman that Carolyn Ironwell was talking about. Oh, did she, Angela? I used to have a ton of those books on that subject. But we had people that were doing things like this couple. I called them Shrimpleton and Angelica. Every time you saw them, they were saying, oh, there's an angel right here, and I'm playing with him. I'm doing whatever. I'm holding his hand. He's messing with my hair. He's doing whatever. Every time you talk to Shrimpleton and Angelica, you were going to get that. They'd be at a conference, and they'd be laying on their backs laughing. Then, I'm playing with the angels. They took it off into this really weird, strange thing. And the more they were with each other, the more bonded to each other they got. And the more they got bonded to their weird theology that involved nothing but angels, that you didn't really have to... Angela, that's true. One of your nicknames is Angela. That'd be a good one because you're Angela. Take away the A and you're an angel. So they went to a really nutty direction with this, and they started getting stranger and stranger between the two of them. Couldn't take him anywhere. middle of church, they'd be falling on the floor saying, I'm playing with an angel. Angels are all here. There's angels standing behind you. And I don't know, Angela. I don't know. I just don't know. But I know that most people who have spirit guides and all that, they aren't getting so weird about it. They're not letting it take over their entire life until they're neglecting their children and their husband. They're constantly trying to scare up their angels. Every place they're going, they're singing angels, angels, angels. And I forgot where it was in the Bible, but there's a thing that talks about evil coming seductively and beautifully. Now, if you were an evil spirit, wouldn't you try to fool some Christians by pretending to be an angel? I mean, they got so weird with it, they were pulling out a Ouija board and trying to contact angels. That's what I mean about they got strange about it. They were always connected to this. They were always doing this thing. They were always saying these things. And to the exclusion of all else. That little group broke up when Angelica slept with Shrimpleton's husband. That kind of threw a monkey wrench into their angel group. So there's that. So they finally stopped doing that. But the 3 years they were at church and they were doing that, it went from, oh, an angel touching my hair to just the strangest places that you could think of that it was going. I mean, like Gwen Shamlin strange. And it'd be one thing if that was something that led them closer to God, but when you start making that your entire focus and not God or Jesus or whatever, it just gets weird. We had so many times where the pastor would go do an exorcism of somebody's house. And the spiritual things. And don't get me wrong, I am very into the whole spiritual thing. I've seen dead people for years. Knock on wood. Haven't seen anyone in a while, and I'm glad. So, but I would never run around doing that angel thing because I understood how dangerous. Here's the thing when you start fooling with things like Ouija boards and familiars like angels, spirit guides, and that sort of thing. If you're not wise about it, you can open a door to somewhere else. I am convinced there is evil, and a lot of these times, these fundamentalist evangelicals, when they're doing this stuff, I don't think they're trucking with something from God. I think it's something from the other guy, because it stops being something miraculous that leads you to God. It starts being something that makes you focus entirely on that, to the exclusion of your children, your husband, everything else. You're just chasing that experience again and again and again and again. And you can apply this to just about anything in evangelical Christianity. It's not just angels. I've seen people get very nutty about a lot of things. The Way Down workshop and Gwen Shamlin, I know people that went a little too far in the deep end about that. So you can go crazy on any of that. We had a couple of people at our old church that suddenly became exorcists, like starting with Bob Larson, and that's all they did. And it got really weird really fast. Told you about the time that we had a child that was prayed over to be delivered of a demon, was rolling on the floor and talking in a growly voice and throwing up. But I later asked him what that was about, because I knew him pretty well and I knew he was no believer. And he told me said he didn't know, he was just super high. So I think you have to be really careful with anything like that. You know, I hate to say it. Once upon a time, I used to love and wonders. And I used to holy laughter. I used to love when people start roaring like lions and doing all this stuff. Now I'm kind of like, really? Really? That's really what you think is your best use of your time before the Almighty? A lot of them will still do that. So it's pretty interesting, because this is what presaged the split at our church, was when we had some people that were going off the deep end and getting super duper crazy, and it just wasn't working well. They all ended up leaving. Like I said, there were some crazy infidels. One thing that was pretty interesting to me too in my old church is dream interpretation. We had some people that did dream interpretation, and that I'm not 100% sure. I'm not really sold either way on that. I had a really strange dream one time that I told somebody up there, and they told me that meant that I was going to be sent out of the church and that nobody would understand what I was doing and that I would have to be what I was doing, but that nobody at my old church was going to understand. It was just going to go over their heads and they were going to throw rocks at me. At the time, I thought that was a big piece of BS, but that's almost what happened when I left. They were, so they were kind of like that when I left. And the dream was so strange, I don't know how you interpreted it that way. And it's interesting because I know from that, suppose if you dream about certain things, it means certain things, but I've never found that to be true for me. I've always found you dream, you wake up and go, wow, that was a crazy dream, and then you go on about your day. Another big thing at my old church was words of knowledge. They would get people that would pray over you, that would get words of knowledge about you. And most of the time, it was the most ridiculous BS on the planet. We have, somewhere around here, I still have my notes for when my husband and I went off for deliverance ministry, and they said a bunch of stuff about him that wasn't even remotely true. They said he loved Star Wars and fishing. Well, I can tell you right now, I don't think that man has picked up a fishing rod more than once. And all the time we've been married. And he doesn't like science fiction at all. So that's something that a lot of people in the church will say they have the gift of. But when you listen to the things they're saying, you're going, what is this? What is this? A good example of that was somebody gave a word of knowledge over me one time that I was going to develop hen's feet, HINDS, to climb over the mountains in my way. Well, at the time, I only heard it as there are mountains in your way. But I think one of the positively most dumb ones we got was my son was told never to get into a red muscle car because if he did, it would end tragically and it would derail his entire future. When they told us that one, I was scared. I was so scared. Started lecturing my son about, don't you dare get into a red car, blah, blah, blah. So there was that. And now I'm coming out and I'm revisiting all these things. They're just popping up. Who knows? Who knows where any of this will go? Somebody asked me the other day, too, about why I'm no longer going on to Real Entertainment News' live streams. There's a reason for that. I like Kareem. I really do. And I think he's a good guy in his own weird way. Does that mean, that doesn't mean I agree with everything he says and does? No. But here's the thing. Here's what started happening when I'd go into Kareem's. And it made for a really bad month last month. I would have somebody say something hideous. And they would say something like, call me crazy, all kinds of other things. Almost all were fans of Without a Box of Kleenex. There's like, I've started calling her Pestilence Adams. And Pestilence Adams friends that were in Kareem's live streams would take it too far. They would go and do stuff like, let's see. They started following me out. They started coming onto this channel and leaving me very, 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 very ugly messages. This started to happen every time I went on to Real Entertainment News. I would have someone give me crap in the comments, and then they would follow me out and they would give me bad comments here. They would give me awful comments on Twitter. They would PM me on Twitter and say nasty things, and I just had enough. I don't need that. I've got enough other stuff going on. But I do miss going on to Reel's videos, and I was talking about doing cooking one with him sometime. But as of right now, I don't think that's going to happen. I'm just going to have to stay off other people's live streams, do my own, stick to my own content, stay in my lane, not even mention Pestilence Adams as little as possible, and just keep moving forward. I know this is kind of a weird time for me to be on. I'm usually done with my day by now, but today was all discombobulated. We did have one interesting experience I wanted to talk about because Costa Rica I know he wouldn't be happy about it either, Cheryl, and I was going to talk to him about it, but I was going to wait until I wasn't quite as hurt, because the last time it was pretty, hey Heidi, it was pretty intense last time. It was a pretty hateful little set that came after me in comments and live streams and on my Twitter. Of course, I block these people when they show up and they say ugly pro pestilence Adams things. I just block the hell out of them when they show up and do that, because ain't nobody got time for that. I don't want to fight about her. I really don't want to fight about her. I wanted to talk a little bit about Costa Rica too today in my video. Today, as sick as I was, I had the well, Cheryl, I don't think they were saying much. They said one or two little things during the chat, and then took it off chat, and then came after me on my own channel and stuff. That was really the problematic one. Now, if somebody says on the chat that I give them a headache, because I did have one of his regulars said that my voice gave her a headache, and I said, well, I'm sorry about that. And I can take that kind of, it's just when they carry it out of somebody else's chat and start going after you everywhere you post, it just becomes tiresome. You're slapping yourself and then going, why am I doing this again? Cheryl, I may see if I can go ahead and slip you who it was, because it was two fans of Pestilence Adams that were there when Real was having his kumbaya moment. He was trying to get along with everybody, and I didn't want to derail that by saying these people are being jerks to me. I didn't want to derail his kumbaya moment. I know that's how he was feeling. One of them I told her off, and that was not nice. And I got warned by Real, which was kind of funny. I kind of laughed at that. So Costa Rica, if you move here, do you remember seeing on the Beverly Hillbillies Jed Clampett and his relationship with Mr. Drysdale? Mr. Drysdale was his personal banker. All he had to do was pick up the phone or go in there and, all he had to do was pick up the phone or go into Mr. Drysdale's office, and Mr. Drysdale snapped and made it happen like that. One of the good things about being here in Costa Rica is if you have a little bit of money in the bank, and it doesn't have to be as much as you might think, you can get a personal banker like that. Now, he won't show up at your house and shine your shoes or whatever kind of ridiculous stuff Mr. Drysdale had to do, eat Granny's victuals or something, but or give Jethro a job one time. You remember they gave Jethro a job on the Beverly Hillbillies? It's not quite like that, but it's pretty damn close. Okay. I'll go ahead and hit you up when I look it up. So anyway, it's been the best thing in the world. We have a private banker now. He shows up. We call him and say, hey, we need X, Y, and Z. We show up. We don't wait in line. We're private and to take care of all our banking business quickly, efficiently, and with like the most care. I don't even think anybody in the States does that anymore. I don't even think if you had zillions of dollars, they wouldn't even do that. But here they do. If you have investments in the bank, you get a personal banker. It's the best thing ever. Particularly that do stupid, mundane things. Like today, we were changing out our debit cards. My husband's had fallen apart, and mine was rapidly starting to fall apart. Hey. So even though as sick as I was, they were able to go in there and get this done quickly. Go around the line. Lighthouse Uptal on the cliffs of, Lisa, yeah, and that's the sad thing. In the States, that sort of customer service is faded. They don't do customer service on anybody. I know because I've had some problems recently with my Amex hydrate, and I wasn't in the States, so I was getting kind of a runaround until I finally figured out that the only way to resolve the problem was talk to somebody in the U.S. Because as long as I kept getting routed to India or China or wherever their people are that answer the phones, they were just going to go, yes, ma'am, but they weren't going to resolve the problem. So there is that. So we're kind of thrilled with that here. It's another good reason to be here. The other good reason is with as little as $500, you can open a CD here. The CD rates range anywhere from 6 to 9%, depending upon how much you have and how long you lock it down for. That is unheard of. You can't get anything like that in the States these days. So we were really thrilled to be able to take the bulk of everything we have and buy CDs here. Very, very, and the way it's run, they have their own, in the States is FDIC, they have their own one similar to that here. So if you're using a government-sponsored bank, Banco de Costa Rica, or Banco Nacional, your money is safe. Your money is safe, and you can get all kinds of investment opportunities that you do not have in the States as far as the amount. Stayed on Del Coco Beach. I know where Del Coco Beach is. It's up the Monkey Trail from us. There's a twisty, windy back road from here in the Tama area to over to Coco that goes over the mountains, and you go over the rivers, and you turn here and turn there, and where the horse died 3 years ago, you turn again. So it's a dirt road that's kind of washed out in places and things that you have to use to get to Coco from here. But it's absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Coco is heaven. It really is a nice beach. It's one of our favorites. It's right up there with Playa Grande, which is the one we live the closest to. So hopefully, lucky us, we ended up near where we found our favorite beach. So Cheryl, I've talked to her about it a couple times. I've told her, come stay with me. I have a guest house. I have a guest house here. And that was one of the things about yesterday. I was out there humping and bumping to try to get it cleaned out because I hadn't touched it in 2 months. I hadn't touched it at all, and there was dust on everything. Thick layer of dust on every single thing in those stupid guest house. So I had to clean it because we may be having a guest this weekend. But we were supposed to have had one last night. They flaked out the last second. I don't know where they are. But it's a good idea to go in there once or twice a month and just dust. And I'm going to have to make myself do that. Because when I walked in there, I was like, oh, my God, when I saw how much dirt. The worst part about it is we had somebody come visit us that had kids. And we let the kids kind of roam everywhere. And I didn't realize it until I went to clean yesterday. They had jumped on the sofa in the guest house. And the sofa there is almost brand new. I mean, we've had it maybe a year or so, not long at all. And they pulled the curtains from the living room down over the sofa, and they were jumping and leaving greasy little footprints, dirty, greasy footprints all over the sofa, all over the drapery. So that took me the longest thing to clean yesterday. That was the thing that didn't want to clean. I finally put together this Dawn and alcohol solution I have and sprayed it and scrubbed it, and it looked okay. I'm going to have to go back out there and see what it looks like. Oh, Cheryl, that is the truth of the matter. You're not feeling good? It is. The kids were some friends of ours' kids. They were here. Yeah, I think that's what we're going to do. We're going to get a housekeeper. I keep begging my husband for a Roomba, but apparently that's going straight in one ear and out the other. He's reluctant to lay out any more money for appliances here because the electrical system, is doing like this all the time. It burns out things. Shoot, I burned out my toaster in less than 2 years from the electrical current because I don't have surge protectors in the kitchen. So I've got to do that before I add any more appliances and buy a new toaster. So there's that. But I am seriously thinking about getting somebody to come in and clean once, twice a week. It will make a difference for me now that I'm struggling with this stroke recovery. So I'm thinking I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it. We have a guy we use that comes in to do our gardening very inexpensively. We pay him pretty fair wages. So why don't we add somebody from the inside of the house? I just reached a point where I'm just not wanting to do this anymore. Sweep, mops, scrub, the whole 9 yards. So let somebody else do that. Somebody knows what they're doing. Housework has never been something that I enjoy doing. It's something I've always done because I don't like living in filth. So there's that. There is that. Did y'all see today, Without a Box of Kleenex had showed some video of cleaning off her office chair and pushing the dirty water out of it? It was pretty scary. I'm going to put a lock on your guest house door. We do have a lock on it. Sure, we have a lock on it. I could lock it. It's just my friend, our friend was here. She had her 2 kids. And while we were talking, the kids were wandering around. Well, we left the guest house open to show them. And I didn't even think about the kids going in there. And I know it was them because like at one point I walked in here to our room and they were both up in the bed on our water bed covers, propped up on the pillows, watching our TV, watching cartoons. I kind of laughed when I saw that because I don't mind about that. They didn't leave anything dirty or anything in the bed, but that sofa, I was like, what the hell happened here? And I didn't even know it. Cheryl, I try not to watch Kleenex either, but every now and then she posts something on Instagram or whatever that gets back to me. And the chair thing was just really shocking because the dirt and the water, I don't think I had water that dirty when I was cleaning my floors here when we had flood water come through. I was just pretty shocked. Cheryl, they're just real excited. They're real excited to be here, and they had never seen a waterbed. So that for them, that was something that was a little thrill that they got to experience, was lay down on the waterbed. I just did not know they had been in the cabina by themselves. I know at one point they were supposedly swimming, and since I was cooking and various things, I wasn't really watching where they were going. So next time, the cabina door will be locked before we leave. And yeah, and we also have like an owner's closet there that's really huge that I need to now go through and sort everything in there, which I'm not looking forward to. I'm going to wait until I have a good walk day. I've had 3 horrible ones, so not happening until then. Kids do love them, Cheryl. My husband used to own a company that made water beds. That's how we ended up with so many water beds. We ended up with water beds. At one point, every bed in the house was a water bed. But now we've only just held on to our one only water bed, and we still use it. And I kind of like it. I'm used to it now. It makes your back a whole lot better than anything else before. So what else was I going to talk about tonight? Oh, I know. Has anybody seen the movie yet, The Eyes of Tammy Faye? I know that I mentioned it the other day, and I talked about having seen it. Yes, I did see it. Now I have read her autobiography, and oh my goodness, it dulls my mind. I'm sorry you're not feeling 100%. Love waterbeds. Hard to come by them. They are now. Yeah, we're hanging on to ours. And so I downloaded this book. Read. It's interesting. The movie pretty much did not blame her for anything. It showed her as the happy, smiling housewife sidekick that didn't do anything wrong. And that's where her book was very interesting. I wish I could remember the name of it. She claimed to have not known anything, and I'm not buying it. I am not buying the thing at all. The Eyes of Tammy Faye is a brand new movie, Cheryl, that came out that is about, the Freddie Mercury movie. There were parts of that were just totally fictionalized. And I was watching it as a longtime Queen fan going, what? So this one I knew less about. So I was able to suspend disbelief at some of the crazier parts, like her water breaking and going into labor while she's having an affair with her man on Jim, which she claims she never did in the book. But here's the interesting thing. She wouldn't take responsibility for anything. She seemed to say, I bet what doghouse was air conditioned. So what? I'm allowed to have a life and blah, blah, blah. Oh, Lisa, you were right about that. A movie club. Yeah, that's exactly what we need to do. The Queen movie was extremely disappointing, Lisa. I was really surprised at some of the directions that the movie, some of the choices that the movie made. I think she was up to her neck in it too, Cheryl. And that's what I read in her book. She was blaming everybody else, said she didn't know. I don't buy that. I don't buy that. I don't buy that. Particularly she's spending that kind of money and buying crazy stuff like she has done. She had to have known something was going on. The other interesting thing is she threw shade at every single other fundamentalist Baptist minister, every other televangelist. Every televangelist in the world she threw shade at. And I kind of laughed. Let me go through the laundry list. She threw shade at Pat Robertson. She said that her and Jim made his channel. They were the ones that came up with the 700 Club, and they ran all these shows. And Jim kicked them to the street without a thank you. She said that Paul and Jan Crouch did the same thing. The Crouches, they're the ones where Jan, the woman, has a pink candy floss wig. I always got such a big kick out of it. Who is that woman with the pink wig? I want to see. So there was that. So she also claimed that Jimmy Swaggart tried to throw them under the bus a number of times. And she talked about Swaggart as high-class, expensive hookers, which really made me laugh because when it came out, the women he was with were like the $5 variety. There was nothing high-class or high-priced about any of them. And Jerry Falwell, she pretty much threw Falwell under the bus. She threw everybody under the bus. They all stabbed them in the back. They all used and abused her. And she refused to take any blame for anything that went on. Now, the way I'm looking at it is there's usually blame to go around in failed relationships. And that might be 5-95 or 50-50, but there's usually something you've done. I know myself in some of my relationships that haven't worked out well, I've had some culpability in it. They are petty narcs, Lisa. They're very petty narcs. They are, they're racing to their own self. And it's funny because Jimmy Swaggart has pulled himself back up. Lynchburg, I just mentioned his name. Jimmy Swaggart has pulled himself back up. He's going strong now. He's rented out most of his buildings for his Bible college to the state of Louisiana for various things. He's pulled himself back from the financial cliff, but he's still back on the air. Pat Robertson, of course, is still on the air with the 700 Club, the show that he said that Jim Bakker started. So he's still doing well, but he's never had a real scandal either. Jim Bakker has managed to pull himself off the brink. And he has managed to find a new scam. He's selling into the world supplies, mostly food buckets and silver solution. Jerry Falwell has passed on, obviously, but his son is a piece of work. You remember last year, son, it came out that, what was that? It came out last year that his son and his daughter-in-law had kind of a strange relationship with a pool boy that was maybe not 100% biblical. So our parsonage was haunted, terrifying. I don't want to see angels. Liz, I hear you on that. When I was in Dallas-Fort Worth area, there was a Christian TV radio station close to the spa where I worked. The on-air people who came in were the worst clients, rude and entitled. I can believe that because in college for a while, I worked at a jewelry store, manufacturing jewelers in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And Frances Swaggart used to come in all the time, and she was quite entitled and very difficult to deal with. I would not wait on her when I saw her coming in. I would take my break and let somebody else wait on her because she was always heavy-handed, impetuous, so much better than everybody else. And it's just like, and I would see her also at the boutique next door that sold designer clothes. I'd sneak in there every now and then and get something off their, final clearance rack. But she was always buying jewelry and designer clothes. And I remember thinking at the time, and this is before Swaggart had those problems, I remember thinking at the time, that's kind of weird for a minister and a minister's wife who's on TV all the time to be spending that kind of money on jewelry all the time. Dobson, focus on the family. I didn't realize he was so politically influential. But of course, they would be. Dobson, he is a whole different brand of just out there. I used to read his books and follow some of his advice, but I never beat my child, regardless of what him or Michael Pearl said, because one of my children was a strong-willed child that he was talking about in one of his books. My middle child was just sweet and relaxed as could be. My last child was just like, tense from the moment she popped out. And kind of strong-willed. Stuff like, I remember one time when she was about 3, she disassembled part of the swing set, pushed it over the pear tree, and assembled a makeshift ladder to go pick pears and eat them. She came in the house, Mom, my stomach hurts. Well, if you eat like 6 or 7 pears, your stomach is going to hurt. So use the puberty series. I'm not as familiar with that one, Mandy. I just know him from the strong-willed child. And I remember reading it again. Oh, it was Ingenuity. Indeed, Mandy. I always said with her, she was the one that I would punish and be laughing. I'm the best because she would do these crazy things. And I'd be looking at it going, wow, how did she know how to do that? Her older brother didn't do that. She would do stuff like that. Yes, Lisa, that's how it was with me. My daughter's a ball of fire. My son is mellow. And they still are a lot of ways like that. I read the books too. One was strong-willed, and I could have beat the hell out of him. They would have continued on. Strong-willed children will. That's why I never used the physical component, because I'd been pretty strong-willed as a child and been spanked, and it did not work. I was very defiant. I would look at my father and say, that didn't hurt, hit me again. I actually did say that a number of times as a child until I got the kind of spanking that left marks. But I was determined not to do that. Cheryl, it was wrong in every way possible. It really was. I'm going to have to download that book and do a chapter-by-chapter review because it's extremely wrong. And you see that a lot of times these Christian books, like Saturday, I'm going to do another book review, and it's going to be on Debbie Pearl's book, Neuroplasticity, because I did a lengthy review of that for NLQ, and she was doing stuff like taking the research of Stanford cookie and extrapolating it out in a way that the research doesn't even support. The research showed that children from stable families with a decent income were very good at delaying gratification. But children from more precarious circumstances wanted the cookie right then. They didn't want to get two later. So every time there was some type of legitimate research, Debbie Pearl completely misunderstood it. She said that the cookie experiment showed that good Christian children knew to wait to get double the cookie instead of, and that's not at all what the research shows. And that research was conducted from 1970 until recently in just about every culture and countries throughout the world. So it's not like they just went into some lily white suburb and ran this. No, they went everywhere for this. They know nothing. Yeah, you're right about that. That book is really crazy. And here's When Worlds Collide. Here's where it gets really crazy, her book. Chapter 2 is about guess who? Jill Rodriguez's daughter. Her youngest one that was born